All right, boys and girls, you know what time it is. Yeah, I get to show you my toys. Hey, I might help you, might teach you something. Let's see what we can do. Use Motorized presents cool motorized toys. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, let's go. Hey everybody, Eugene here, Hughes Motorized. Check this bad boy out. Hey, I'm gonna put this thing on eBay. If you see in the description a link for eBay, that means this thing, the auction's live here. We're only gonna go about 7-10 days, whatever, on the auction. I'm gonna start off with whatever I've got in it. So you're looking at about $400 invested in one of these bad boys here. So that's what I'm gonna start the bidding at on eBay. $400 for this board track Replica racer. I understand it's not a drop loop frame for those of you who are purists, but it's a cool little bike, and you know what? You're gonna get a lot of oohs and ahs and the like. I feel riding this bike around. If you wanna build one, watch the video. I'll go into detail on how I built it here. You're looking at about $400, like I said, $100 on the bike, 120 on the motor kit and the like. You need an offset intake. We've got the fixie style seat on it. I used some shellac, made the old school cloth handle, the grips on it here, welded up the gas tank. You're looking at about another $40 in steel and the like. So hey, no more than $400 you're in on it, and you don't have to spend $1,000 on a tubing bender. So there you go. So come on in, let's watch me make this bad boy. Okay, like I said, for the basis of this bike, we're going to use a Huffy Cranbrook. I love them. They got steel wheels. You got nice thick spokes. Strip this bad boy down all the way down, bare naked frame here. We're going to break the chain, take the chain off. All the specialty tools I use, check the links down below there. I got links where you can get all the tools and the like here. Scrape all of your decals off of this bad boy. Now, I'm marking here where I'm going to cut the frame. I'm going to go into more detail on that in a second here, because look, stop. Do not use an angle grinder with a cutting disc to cut the first part of this cut here. Now this frame, remember, that goes from the axle, goes all the way up to the seat there by number 3. That's called the seat stay, and then it goes all the way up to the down tube. See that yellow arrow? That's where I'm doing the first cut. That piece of tubing is under a lot of tension, and if you go cutting that with an angle grinder with a cutting disc on it, when you cut that, it's going to pop and you could shatter that disc. That disc is spinning 10,000 RPMs. You do not want to be around if that thing shatters. You're going to be picking pieces of that disc out of your crotch and out of your face, okay? So once we cut that, I use a Sawzall or a reciprocating saw, or use a hacksaw, okay? Then we're going to cut it number 1, then we're going to cut it number 2. And if you want to have the seat down nice and low, we're going to cut it number 3 there, okay? Now then, here I am doing the cutting. You cut those lugs off there in the front. You're going to use your angle grinder with a flap disc to grind that off. Now here I am showing where we're going to cut there at the top there. You want to cut in front of those 2 welds. You don't want to cut behind them. You want to cut in front of it. That way we leave the welds intact. You're going to have the best integrity of the frame. All right? So hey, now let's carry on, boys and girls. Now I need a piece of 3/4 inch tubing that's going to go in the place here, that's going to go from the seat all the way to the down tube to replace this. Here's more detail. Okay, and as you see, what we did is we welded in this 3/4 inch piece of round tubing here. We've got the tank and this here kind of obstructing it, but you've got this piece that we had to weld in to take place of this here where it goes across. Now we're going to mount the motor, and we've got a little problem here in mounting the motor here. We don't have much space. Now I would like to use one of the big, the CNC mounts, but we're not able to because of space constraints. So what I did is I came up with this system here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of 3/4 inch by 1/8 inch flat bar. I bend it to mirror the shape of the frame here, and I tacked this onto the frame. Then I took a piece of 3/16 inch plate, drilled 2 holes in it that are the mounting plate for the motor can then be bolted onto. So we've got the plate here, which is mounted to the motor. We have the 3/16 inch plate here, and then we have the bar stock. And what this is going to do here is it's going to distribute the load evenly on the frame here. This tubing is pretty doggone thin. Okay, this is only 0.065 thick, and if this mounting plate is not firmly mounted onto it, meaning if I've got like just a knife's edge sharp against it, that could cause this to crack. What we want to do is even that load out on a large area, and with this system here, I've managed that. Okay, let's tack weld on the bar stock. We've got the 3/16 inch plate. Let's weld that on. Go ahead and grind all that stuff off, make it look nice and pretty here. Okay, let's get on to the fork extensions. This is 1-inch round tubing. We're just going to weld that onto the top of the forks. It's just for looks, make it look. We're going to make some old school looking forks here. Okay, I used the magnets to get it in place for just let me tack it on. Okay, now for the trusses. 1/4 inch round by 16 inch long bar stock. We're going to make the trusses out of that. Put a nice bend on it for the angle there. Weld it onto the forks. Now then, I'm going to take an 1 3/4 inch piece of the bar stock there, the 1/4 inch round bar stock. Weld, beat, bang that sucker in place there. Weld it on there. It's going to give us the supports. We're going to do that on both sides now, okay? Weld it in, make it look pretty. Now I'm going to make a layback seat post. I'm using the original seat post here. I'm cutting a 4-inch piece, and I'm cutting just the tail end piece here that goes into the seat. This is my forge. I made this myself. I'm going to use some charcoal, get it white hot. This is round bar stock, 5/8 inch round bar stock. I'm going to heat it up in my forge, get it glowing orange hot. We're going to bend a 90-degree angle at it. We're going to dress it up. We're going to weld on the 4-inch piece at the bottom that's going to go into the frame, and then we have the top piece. We weld this into the seat post and we're good to go. Now I'm making the gas tank. I'm using a piece of cardboard to make my template. I'm going to be cutting this. The steel I'm using is 16 gauge steel, nice and thick. I'm going to use that for the top, the back, the bottom, and the front of the gas tank, and then the sides I'm going to use a lighter gauge steel here. Okay, so I'm going to make it fat in the front and taper towards the back there, so we have a nice coffin shape on it here. Okay, I'm using my brake here to bend the ass end of it around. If you don't have a brake, no problem. You can use a socket extension or whatever. Bend it around it here. I've made a few of these here. If you want to help you, make your whole gas tank out of cardboard first. Then you can see how you need to shape it. Now I used the brake to get the slow arch there on the top of the gas tank here. And here I am fitting it together. I put it in the frame. Check it out. See, there you go. I've got the nice slow curve on the top. Now I'm going to make the sides of the gas tank 22 gauge steel. I'm using my electric nibbler here, cutting it. Now we're going to go to the English wheel. Here's the 2 English wheels. Here's 2 rollers that I've got in the English wheel. I've got a flat one and a round one. I'm going to use the round one here, and what we want to do is make a nice sloping curve on this here, right to left. I'm putting the rubber band on the English wheel here, the top wheel. The reason for that rubber band is that way it doesn't curve front to back. That way I can keep it flat and it's going to mount on my tank good. Now that I've got the contour that I want on the steel, let's go ahead and cut it to shape. Check everything out that it fits. I took the rubber band off. Now I'm using the English wheel just to get rid of some of the wheel marks in the steel. Let's go ahead and tack this baby up. If you use a cheaper welder, you want to use it in real short bursts. Otherwise, you're going to burn holes in it. I made a little goof here. Here I am fixing a little patch for the front there. Get everything welded up. Then you can do your long welds. No matter what welder you use on this lighter gauge steel, you're only going to be able to use it in short bursts. Okay, let's go ahead and dress it up. Now I'm drilling the holes for the filler neck. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch pipe nipple, galvanized, for the filler, and then a 1/8 inch coupler for the bottom. Now these are galvanized fittings, and when you weld galvanized, you want to use it you want to do that in a very well ventilated area. The fumes are very toxic. Okay, so here I am cleaning up the gas tank, the welds there. I checked it with water, filled it with water, checked for leaks, patched it up. Now we're ready to do the mounts on it. I took some 16 gauge steel. I'm going to put 1 mount at the top and then 2 mounts at the bottom. Here I am, what I'm doing is I'm going to weld on a 6mm bolt onto the frame, and then we're going to put 2 more mounts on the bottom of the gas tank there, okay? Now that we've got the gas tank mounted, what I want to do is go ahead and seal it with Caswell epoxy sealer. This is a 2-part sealer. You put 1 part of the red component of the epoxy there, and then 2 parts of the clear. Mix it up. Yep, I had a hole in my little mixing cup there. No problem. There's no oil on the table. Mix it all up. You want to mix it for at least 2 minutes. Then you pour it into the gas tank there, and you want to pour it all over and make sure it hits each and every one of the seams inside of it here. You keep turning it, turning it, turning it. You turn it for about a good 10 minutes. It thickens up and then it sets up. Now let's go ahead and get going with the stem here. What we're going to do here, so we can get this cool look here on the handlebar stem. So here is the stock stem as it comes with it. This here goes up. What I did is I cut it on both sides, removed this, turned it around, and that way we've got that angled down. That gives it a much better look. Okay, so here I am welding on two 9/16 by 12 hex nuts on the top of the fork risers, and that's going to enable me to put these two bolts in like you see here. I cut that top plate out of 16 gauge steel, drilled the 3 holes in it, set everything together like you see there. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to install the chain tensioner. I'm going to weld it on. So I got my rag joint set up, check everything out, make sure my rag joint's good. Now check here where I'm going to be cutting this here. The bottom arrow points to the 2 red lines. I'm just going to enlarge the large slot there and bring it out to the drilled hole, and then the top arrow points to the line where I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to beat it on the anvil and get everything straight there, make it flat, get everything ground down. Let's go ahead and mount it on the bike. First thing we got to do is get the rear wheel with the sprocket on, cut the chain, tack it on. I pulled the nylon wheel off to the side, welded up. Here I am welding on a little tab for the brake arm. Instead of using that cheap little clamp that holds the brake arm in place, I want to use a tab and a piece of steel. Looks more professional that way. Paint the bike up any way you like. I'm going for a distressed look, lots of patina. I hit it with the red paint, a couple of different colors of red paint, some black paint. I worked it up in layers here, and then finally towards the end I also used some Phoebing's leather dye. Check the link down below there for the leather dye, and I kind of splashed that on with some red paint, hit it with acetone, give it a nice distressed look. Just keep working at it, hit it with a grinder, do whatever you want. Okay, like I said, we're going to have this bike available on eBay. If the link is down below, the auction's going here, okay? So it's July 14th, we're starting the auction. So by the 21st or so, it'll be gone, and I'll get rid of the link. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Click subscribe. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. There's a lot more cool stuff to come. Come on. Cool motorized toy. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.